You don't get what you want, you get what you believe. Years of personal development, setting goals, and trying to figure out what was missing, all wrapped up into one sentence. And here's the thing, what you believe came from when you were a child. It has nothing to do with what you actually want now. And when you were a child, you had no idea what your future self was going to want. But the decisions your 6-year-old self made created beliefs that are running your life right now at 40, 50, 60 years old. And in this video, I'm breaking down exactly what that means, why it happens, and why you can't just think your way out of it. For years, I had this belief that I was stuck in Michigan. I was born and raised in Michigan, but my entire life, all I wanted was to move away where it was sunny and warm and beautiful every day. But I didn't do it until I was 44 years old because I had this belief that I was stuck in Michigan. I couldn't just pick up my life and start over somewhere else. It wasn't until I actually changed that belief and fully stepped into, I can live anywhere I want, that I actually allowed myself and my family to do what I always wanted to do my entire life, which was move to Arizona. And here we are. I'm going to break down exactly what happens that keeps people stuck in situations that they'd rather not be in. And today we're going to talk about something that keeps people away from the life they really want, and it's called the belief-desire mismatch. And what that means is that what you believe that can happen, what your life can look like, what you can achieve, is not in alignment with what you actually want your life to look like and what you want to achieve and how you want to feel, most importantly. And the reason why I feel so passionate about this is because so many women are not really happy with where they are in life. They've done all the things, they've succeeded, they've checked the boxes, but there's something missing and they're not as happy or fulfilled as they could be or really want to be. So the reason why this happens, this belief-desire mismatch, is because when we're a child and the way that our brain is developing, we don't have the same conscious awareness that we have now. What we have is this sponge of a brain that soaks up everything that's around us. So all the things that we witness, that we hear, that we see, that we experience is all being basically downloaded into this sponge of a brain before age 7. And then once we're around 7, that sponge starts to kind of dry up. And that's the belief system that we live with the rest of our lives, unless we do this work that we're going to talk about today. So when you're 40, 50, 60 years old, your daily way of life is based on this old sponge that was created when you were 5, 6, or 7 years old. And the problem is what you thought was important or what you needed to do to survive, to get love, to succeed is different than what your 40-year-old version of you really wants. What's important to you now? What makes you happy? What makes you excited? What makes you want to get up out of bed in the morning? And when those two things are not in alignment, it causes a lot of conflict and actually suffering. Most of what I hear is that I've done all the right things, but something has always kind of felt off, or I have this amazing career and this amazing life on the outside, but on the inside, something feels like it's just missing. And I'm not really sure exactly why that is. So what's key to understand is this belief-desire mismatch that's happening. And there's 3 main areas for very successful, high-achieving type women where I find they get stuck in this pattern. So the first one has to do with money. If you were raised with very, let's say, frugal parents, where they saved every dime and they never wanted to spend any money and they talked a lot about, well, we can't afford that or we don't have enough money for that kind of a thing. What happened is later in life, that's how you view everything. We don't necessarily have enough. We have just enough. We don't have enough for that. And so what happens when you're an adult is everything that has to do with money, it kind of comes through a scarce lens. So we can go on vacation, but we should definitely get the cheaper tickets. We can book a spa, but we're definitely going to have the cheapest massage package. So like everything is always like, well, we can do it, but, or no, we can't do it because we don't have enough money. There's just this underlying sense of like not enough when it comes to money, no matter how much you have. The next area where I see that is very common is when it comes to achievement. So this happens if you're raised by parents who are all about education and getting good grades, and it's super important to get all A's, and why did you get an A minus? You could have done better. Are you working up to your potential? So if that's how you were raised, then when you're an adult, you feel like you have to be achieving to be worthy. You have to get to that next level to be good enough. You're always being kind of valued based on your performance or what you've achieved. And the mismatch here is that you just want to feel satisfied. You want to feel fulfilled where you are in life. And there's this underlying belief that you've got to do more. So that's a huge mismatch. And this results in always chasing more and never having that enough feeling. And then the third area where I see this really strongly come out is if you were raised to kind of be quiet, to not rock the boat, not to stand out too much, then when you're an adult, you don't speak up. You don't feel like you can be your true self. Like there's a level of confidence you can't quite get to because you never developed that sense of like, yeah, I can be who I am and it is more than enough. So the mismatch here is that you want to go out and say what you want to say. You want to go after what you want to go after, but there's a part of you that believes you've got to have permission from other people, or no, people like us don't do that, or people like you don't do that. So there is this huge mismatch between how you feel about yourself and what you believe about what you can feel about yourself, if that makes sense. And the hard thing about this is that as high achievers, we are smart people. We tend to think our way through problems. And in this case, you cannot do that. You cannot think your way through this. I mean, you could, but you would be spending all day and all night on what you're thinking in this moment. Because the truth is that 90 to 95% of what you do on a daily basis, your thoughts, your behaviors, the choices you make, they're happening on autopilot. They're happening automatically, which means you're not consciously choosing to do those things. It's just sort of happening. Like, you know, when you drive somewhere and you can't remember how you even got there, but you got there because you've done it so many times. That's you living on autopilot. That's just one example, but 90 to 95% of what we do actually happens that way. And so if you want to actually change an outcome of a situation, of your reality, you've got to get to that underlying driving force, which is your belief system, which is those automatic mind-body connections. So you don't think your way through. You have to get to, okay, what are the thoughts and the feelings that I have that has created this belief? So if you were raised that you don't have enough money, you can't afford things, then when you go to think about spending money, you're going to have an automatic autopilot response of like restriction. I can't, I don't have enough, that lack feeling. That's a mind-body automation. And so you've got to use a mind-body tool to disconnect that so that when you think about money, that's not the automatic response that happens. And the more you get to these automations, these subconscious thoughts and emotions, that is the way that you can start to shift your beliefs. First, you have to break them up using mind-body techniques, and then you shift what you want to believe instead. So throughout this channel, I will be bringing you videos that show you the technical side, like how you can use these tools. I'll actually link a couple videos below this one so that you can learn about tapping. That's one of the mind-body tools I use. And so you can learn how tapping really gets down deep. It actually works in the moment to shift things really quickly on a superficial level. And then you can do it more deeply to start really shifting those deep beliefs. So for now, what I want to ask you is, what in your life is not the way that you want it to be? Like, get very specific. What is going on in your day-to-day life that is not the way that you want it? And then work backwards. What is your belief about that? Maybe you want to take a vacation to the Mediterranean. Maybe you want to go on a Mediterranean cruise. Why aren't you? That's a good way to get to your beliefs. Ask, well, why am I not doing it? And what the answer to that is going to show you what your beliefs about that are. So if you want to go on a Mediterranean cruise, you've got to create a belief that you can go on a Mediterranean cruise. You will go on a Mediterranean cruise. You are in the process of booking a Mediterranean cruise. That's how you start to shift into a belief-desire alignment instead of a belief-desire mismatch. So go ahead and drop in the comments what's one thing that you want to change in your life, and then what's the underlying belief that's keeping you from it. And let's start there. I can't wait to see you in the next video where we're going to keep getting deeper and deeper so you can shift your beliefs and live a life that you fucking love.